my far left is FA Iyamu Elizabeth. She is a health officer with the Nigerian Red Cross Society of Edo State chapter. Good to have you on the show. So
Thank you.
pretty. Okay, so welcome. I messed it up again, and I did before. Okay, and then I have another very beautiful woman here, Irene Albo. She's actually a health educator from Edo State Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Good to have you here with us in the studio.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yes, so it's a pleasure. So we have someone from the healthcare sector, primary healthcare sector. We have someone from the Red Cross, and together we're going to see how much we can bring insightful conversation to today's discussion. And I will be starting with you, Mrs. Irene. And yeah, I'll start with you, Mrs. Irene. This old talk about cholera, I know it's not a new term, but why do we keep seeing a resurgence? I mean, it's something that we know of. You don't see. So why are we having this resurgence of the cholera outbreak, and it seems as if it's getting more severe? Is it that is our thought, or is it really that severe?
Okay, thank you very much. Good to be here. So you mentioned cholera. Cholera is one old-time disease, like you mentioned, and one of the reasons why we keep having resurgence of cholera and many other diseases is poor sanitation. That's the main reason why we keep having resurgence of cholera. Poor sanitation, places where we have very, very poor drinking water. You understand? Where there's no little or no good source of drinking water, and all of that. Generally, hygiene, our hygiene is poor. We keep preaching, personal hygiene, open defecation and all of that. Generally, if we want to put it in a bowl, is poor sanitation. Both personal hygiene, environmental hygiene and all of that. Because like we know, cholera has been transmitted through water or food. It's what we call waterborne. There's a waterborne disease that can lead to, severe diarrhea. I don't want to say diarrhea. Severe diarrhea could be with or without vomiting, and it could lead to lots of, electrolytes, dehydration, and all of that. So all this boils around poor sanitation. If we take care of our personal hygiene, starting from regular hand washing, which can never be overemphasized. Let's get used to regular hand washing when you go out to play, when you go out to work. Ensure you wash your hands frequently. And if you're in a place where you do not have water and soap, you should have your hand sanitizer handy. It should be in your bag, it should be in your car, it should be, everywhere with you as you move around. Because, someone told me the other day that, do you still use sanitizers? COVID is over. So I was like, sanitizers are not just about COVID. Yes, it became very, very, people knew about hand sanitizers mainly during the COVID era. But it has to do with personal hygiene. Your hands should be clean at all times because our hands carry germs, our hands carry diseases and all of that. When we start with personal hygiene, we learn to wash our hands regularly, pass it on to our children. Teach your children how to wash their hands. I tell you, when your hands are clean all the time, it's difficult to come down with any infection. Yes, cholera inclusive.
Interesting. Okay, this is really a sad one that we all still think COVID-19 is the only reason why we should use hand sanitizers. Like, a lot of people still do that. And I remember going into the bank one day and I was still wearing my face mask. I actually had cough and I felt I shouldn't just see. And it was there's this heavy cough that when it comes out, it's so loud, everybody must turn to look at you. So I had to wear the mask over my face. I'm like, why are you wearing a mask? Maybe you get corona. Okay, so let me come to you now, Mrs. Iyamu. Red Cross is usually one of the first responders to emergencies when they happen. But this issue of cholera, sometimes it can be so fast that before we even start looking for the numbers to call, we're already recording cases of death. But for people who are already suspecting that they've gotten in contact with something that is contaminated food. We're all living in fear now. Edo State seem to have been able to cover their boundaries. We don't know why we're not recording any cases just about now, and we have flooding issues. But for those who are already suspicious that they have gotten in contact with contaminated food or water, what should they do? And if you have a child around you is already showing symptoms, what's the first emergency response we should take?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers at home there. As we all know, Nigerian Red Cross Society will respond to any emergency. And in this case of cholera, we've already started sensitization from our own end. We've been going to churches, like last Sunday, we've went to churches to sensitize people about the outbreak of cholera. We shouldn't just wait for the pandemic to occur before we start responding to the disease. We've started sensitization, and if there is anyone around there that is suspected to have come in contact with the infectious disease, what they are supposed to do first and foremost, because we know that this cholera, most times, it doesn't show symptoms, and when the symptoms shows up, it becomes so severe, and which can lead to death easily. So, what we are advising is that if there's any suspected cases, the first thing to do is for them to report to the health center close to them, for them to be checked, and for the doctor to be able to replace the lost fluid. Remember, one of the signs and symptoms of this cholera is diarrhea, vomiting, and once this diarrhea and vomiting keep going on, these patients might lose a lot of fluid, and once this fluid is not replaced immediately, it can lead to death. My advice is that they should go to a nearest health center close to them to report to the doctor. And we keep every one of us, all hands should be on deck by sensitizing people how to prevent this cholera, so that it will not occur in our states.
Interesting. Okay, now we've mentioned sanitation, good hygiene, sanitation, but Edo State is actually not known for being a very neat state. It was when I was much younger. We even used to have a day, one particular Saturday every month, where you do sanitation. Then you have this environment police that we had a name for them, Iko or so. You know, they come to catch you, and you're going to buy a car that morning, and your mom is telling you, "Be careful, that like Iko catch you," you know, and all that. But we seem to have stopped that in a long time. The markets that have Mondays for cleaning, they clean and then they bring everything outside, and it takes like a long time for the waste management trucks to come pick it up. We're not very neat, but what can we do as a people, as a government, to create these sanitation awareness? Even where they come to drop the waste, we have one around this Oyogi area access. When you pass that refuse dumping, you would, I don't know, you hold your breath for the next 3 days, because you've left there, you're still imagining the smell. Is it the flies? It's not even properly managed. So when it comes to hygiene, I don't think we're there at all. But what can we do to improve it?
Okay. Yes, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. Yes, when it comes to hygiene in Edo State. I know the Waste Management Board in the state is doing a lot to ensure we get there. Let's use that word. So if I want to talk to the public right now, I'll say, let's take responsibility. Okay, let's use that word. Let's be responsible. Let's learn to pack, refuge and all of that. That properly and dispose of it properly. It shouldn't be, like when you say, oh, people gather dirt and throw in the gutters, and in places not designated for refuse dump, as refuse dump. So we should ensure we do not litter and do not throw garbage, refuse on waterways and all of that. Like I mentioned, cholera is, waterborne. So let's be careful, be mindful of how we dispose our waste. That is one, talking about the environment. Then I mentioned something on personal hygiene. That cannot be overemphasized. Let's ensure we do that. And another thing, which is ongoing now, Red Cross mentioned sensitization. Sensitization is key. In all local government areas in Edo State, the 18, and in our wards, we have healthcare workers moving around, talking during health talks in the primary healthcare centers, moving around in the communities, when they have community dialogues and sensitization, like she mentioned, churches, mosques, and in, focus group discussion, gatherings, we go out to let people know, oh, this is the outbreak in Nigeria, though not in Edo State, but please, this and this is what you should do. Personal hygiene is key. Let's ensure we report any suspected case of cholera. It is very key. Because right now we have this, this high suspicion, for cholera. So when you go to the facility and you present with diarrhea, you first of all think about cholera because of what's going on. And another thing I will still mention, yes, early detection saves life, because cholera in a matter of hours, it can just lead to, it can become very, very fatal. So let's be careful. It's not time to self-medicate. When you have diarrhea, stooling, you are vomiting, temperature and all of that, visit that primary healthcare center nearest to you. And another thing at this point, we should have our ORS, that's the oral radiation solution, handy. Okay, we should have it at home. Most of us, you can get it in the pharmacy, the sachet, or you can prepare it at home. Okay, you can prepare it at home. Let me just quickly describe, with a half teaspoon of salt and 6 teaspoons of sugar into 1 liter of water, treated water. Let's get good bottled water. Bottled water, we're sure of the source, not just any bottled water. Or if you are not so sure, it's advisable that you boil. So when it's on the boil for like a minute, you're allowed to cool down, then you add the salt, half teaspoon, and 6 of sugar, okay? And you stir the water. When it dissolves, you go ahead and drink when you know you have diarrhea. And this solution is called the ORS, oral radiation solution, will help to restore the fluid, lost fluid. If you've been stooling, if you've been vomiting, it will help restore it, and to help restore lost electrolytes and all of that. So you can be taking that just before you go to the health facility. Okay? So that I will not call, that's one thing you can just do before you go and see the doctor. It could be cholera, it could just be ordinary diarrhea. And that definitely will help you, will give you a lot of strength, at least will keep you going before the doctor comes.
Okay, Mrs. Iyama, is there no permanent medication to deal with this, or a vaccine? Because I've heard that there's a vaccine for it. So I've not heard people complain that they have cholera in London, in the US. Why are we always having cases every year? Can't we just take this vaccine and deal with this thing permanently? Let's rest.
Yes, there is the cholera vaccine. It's available in Nigeria, and it's also available in all the government health facilities.
Okay.
I would say many people, they are not aware about these vaccines. That is why this sensitization is very important. During our sensitization, after telling them about the preventive measures and they said prevention is better than cure. So these cholera vaccines, they are available in all our health facilities, government health facilities. You can walk in there and take your cholera vaccine.
Is it free?
It's not for now. The cholera vaccine is not among the free vaccines for now.
Okay.
Gradually, the government they will start introducing vaccines that are free into the routine vaccination, just like the HPV vaccine that was just introduced
Give to children
a few months ago. So we'll also get there soon.
We're hopeful. You want to add something to this?
Yes, for the cholera vaccine. Yes, we have a vaccine for cholera, but it's not readily available in primary healthcare centers in the country. Okay, it's not readily available. Probably you might find 1 or 2 in the teaching hospitals and private hospitals, but in primary healthcare centers, not readily available. I'm talking about the entire Nigeria. You understand? It's not ready, except in maybe selected states. Some states have high burden of cholera even before these incidents. You know, they are prone. So some of those states they have one or two. But it's not readily available. We just hope that it will be made available and made free.
Okay. You know, it's just sad that at this age and stage, because when I hear cholera, the first thing that comes to my mind is dirt. You're dirty. You live in a dirty environment. But I do know that even outside of Nigeria, in the West, we still have slums. Even though they don't show it to us, they have it. But you hardly hear cases of cholera outbreak there. They drink waters from their taps. They don't buy sachet water there, although they still have bottled waters, potable waters. But they drink mostly from the taps, and the waters from the taps are safe enough. And we that are sinking balls every now and again, we are always having this issue. What should government be doing about ensuring treatment of our waters? Like, maybe they could subsidize the money for, I don't know, I've never used it, but I've heard that there are some tablets that you can put in your water and it will suddenly kill off all the bacteria. I've heard, and someone was recommending I come buy other things that look like drugs. I'm very careful about them. But if something like that does exist, shouldn't we be getting it for free, or shouldn't we even be investing in research to promote such things? Because our water bots are not working. So what would you suggest to us, to government specifically, as regards poor water hygiene, and some people just live in areas where the sanitation is poor. There's nothing you can do. They can't afford a better place. So what would you suggest, ma'am? I'll ask both of you. So your suggestions, quickly, briefly, before we go on a break. There's a video I want to push play to.
I would suggest to the government that they should put in place monitoring teams, that can go around to check if the water, like the NAFDAC.
Yes.
We have the NAFDAC. They are there to ensure that our food, the drugs, they are all safe for our consumption. If there are committees like that will go around to ensure that our water is safe, I don't think we'll be having this outbreak of cholera
every now and again.
And also, my advice to individual personally, while we are waiting for government to do something, we on our own, we still have a role to play. If you know your source of water is not good enough, you can boil your water to drink. You can treat your water yourself to ensure that it is safe for drinking while we are waiting for government to do something. Yes, I've had many mothers, especially when it comes to children from 6 months of old, when we ask them, what type of water are you supposed to give to your child? Now that your child wants to start every other food, some of them will tell you Eva water, some of them will tell you
they'll give you brands, okay?
Brands of water. And the question I will now put back to them is that this water, what are the good characteristics of good water? And once your water have that 3 good characteristics, which are your water must be odorless, tasteless, and colorless, it is safe for drinking. Then also come to the food we eat. It is only when the food is contaminated with this bacteria that causes this cholera. That is when this person can get cholera. So we should also ensure that our food should be well cooked. The food should be well cooked. Then our fruits, our vegetables, then we should ensure that they are safe for our consumption, because they can be contaminated with this bacteria. So while we are waiting for government, we have to wait to play.
Okay, interesting. Before you comment, I think she has said a whole lot. There's a video I want to quickly push play to about the contamination of cholera. Maybe there are some children watching at this time and they're not really following it up. What we're saying, it's it puts in animation form so you can understand. All right, so we're just going to push play to that. This will lead us to the news update at 2. Then we'll come back to the concluding part of this discussion. Alright, my name is Daisy Leo Asikidi, your host in today's edition of the program Flipside, and we're talking about dealing with cholera permanently. And I have two very interesting, gorgeous women with me in the studio. I have one representative from the Nigerian Red Cross Society, Edo State, and I'm talking about Mrs. Efe Iyamu Elizabeth. And I also have with her by her side Irene Awubo Mrs. and she's our health educator from the Edo State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and together we've been talking about this. I think so far so good. We know now that there's a vaccine for cholera and it's not readily available in primary healthcare centers. So if you're going to walk into your healthcare center, like you go take BCG for your children, that you want cholera vaccine, you just might not get it. But government, hopefully, at least we've been reassured the government is working on how to make it more available and, if possible, free for everyone, because we've been dealing with this old cholera outbreak every now and again. We've also learned that contaminated food and water is basically what causes cholera, and we've been trying to prefer ways we can deal with this old issue of contaminated water and contaminated food. Now, how do you even know the food and the water you're taking is contaminated? If not, when you start showing signs. It could look fine, doesn't mean it's clean. But anyway, are there some misconceptions about cholera that you'd want people to know? Because you could actually be thinking somewhere in your head that you understand, you know all about cholera and you're safe. But are there any misconceptions out there you want to straighten out for the viewers? Are there any to either of you?
Okay, for cholera, not. I won't say there's any that I know of. I don't know. Yes, because generally you might have one or two rumors about cholera that might say one or two things are spiritual and all of that. Because the normal Nigerian or the regular Nigerian will see diarrhea as not as foreign. Let me put it that way. It's just going to the toilet now, it will soon stop. Then by the time it's now becoming more than what they know, which is cholera. Yes, they'll not start saying it's spiritual. I think that's just the general one I've heard. You know, to say it's not ordinary or things like that. You start hearing things like that. But it's good we are aware that, okay, what cholera is, and that it can lead to death in hours. It's an acute infection. So before you know it, it could lead to death.
Yeah. Okay, in the cases where we have natural disasters, God has blessed Nigeria, we don't have so much of those, but it does happen, and at least the major disaster we're dealing with now is conflicts, insecurity. But in cases where there are natural disasters and there could be an outbreak, because at that point you're not thinking how to get the best of water and all that, what would you advise, especially for those watching us from the northern part of Nigeria, what would be your advice to them at this time now that we're having an outbreak?
At this time, my advice to them is just to ensure that their water is safe. They should stop open defecation for now in order to avoid the outbreak of this cholera. And also, they should watch out to what they put into their system. They should ensure that they are clean and safe for their health. Then, also for the sensitization, I know many you might say they are not aware what cholera is all about. Though cholera has been existing for more than ages now. I'm sure, let me put it like this, maybe 80% of the populace is supposed to be aware of what cholera is. It's only when there's an outbreak, that is when you see people start saying, cholera, we've been hearing about it. And thank God that my sister is here. We've been collaborating for long, Nigerian Red Cross Society, Primary Healthcare Agency. Then we also have SEMA when it comes to terms of a disaster or any outbreak. Then the CDC, NCDC. So we have been collaborating. That is why you also see us here this afternoon to also talk about cholera, to put things in place in case of any epidemics.
You know, some food could actually look clean, but they are not clean. Hence the reason why your advise us to wash and to boil. And I've also read about food in trans-contamination from food, because we put everything in one freezer. That's a conversation for another dish. But let's talk about the one that we can easily relate to. Foods that are very pretty. Let's use tomato at the moment. Thank God we're all women and we all cook stew. It's so expensive now, and a lot of people are looking for the alternative. So there's this one we call guoguo in Benin, the broken ones, and then you're going for it. And that's what many Nigerians are having to do now. Not only tomato, what you normally would want to eat, but because of how expensive food is now, we are going for alternatives. What's our fate in the next couple of years as regards safe food, hygienic food, nutritious food, and we want to combat cholera permanently? Are we even ready? Do you think we're ready for this battle?
Okay, you mentioned tomatoes. Isn't that Yeah, we're having a lot of alternatives right now, but one thing I'll just say is simple. Right now, and it should become a practice. It should be part of us. We should try our very best to grow what we eat. Is it? Yeah, and eat what you grow. Yes, well, I think I've heard of that. You know, grow what you eat what you grow. Try as much as possible. Yes, you might not be a farmer, in quote. When I mean farmer, you might not be a commercial farmer, but that little space you have in your house, that backyard, grow something. Grow vegetables. Like tomatoes can grow there. Your pumpkin leaves, you know, spinaches, green vegetables, pepper, the little ones you can, you know, if you have a very small space. So we advise people to do that. When you grow, you know what you're getting. You know, you get fresh vegetables straight from the farm. You know, and apart from that, you can also grow animals. Apart from, you know, vegetables and all of that. You could have a small space for your chicken, because everything is getting really, really expensive. And by the time you have all of these are ways you can easily eat well without spending too much. By the time you go out there, you get little chicks and you grow them. Before you know it, you see yourself, your protein is intact, especially for your children. Okay? That's for chicken. For all others, like could be snail. There are ways of, you know, growing snails, you know, fishes and all of that. Whichever you feel is easy for you, just go ahead and do it, because there you know the source, you know you're taking it fresh, and it's helping. Then another way, we will try our best to reduce foreign foods, okay? Especially, okay, you hear people talking about apple. You think, okay, it's a rich man that will eat apple. But my dear, I'll tell you that eating fruit in season is best, okay? As far as you wash it, like Red Cross just said, wash thoroughly before you eat. And some of these, make sure you peel before you eat, especially at these times, okay? Eat fruit in season, it will help us. Okay, because most of the time you're talking about broken tomatoes just now. When you take fruit in season, it's difficult to see a broken one. Okay? Except maybe because like tomatoes, you have to now pack into the basket and, you know, ship down, bring down from the northern parts of the country. So let's try our best to do our own growing. It will help a lot. Eat fruit in season, it will help a lot too. It's not the one you now have to start keeping and all of that. So this will definitely help in, you know, increase our feeding level even in these hard times.
Beautiful,
yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now the emphasis on washing fruit is really much, and we know some people will take it to the extreme. and then even begin to incorporate detergent in their washing. We've seen videos. So let's talk a little bit about using detergent to wash foods that we eat at the moment. There are videos, even to melon. I've seen one video where this guy was washing the melon with one particular brand, I'm not going to mention it, and then he put it out to dry and brought it to the market looking all pretty, but someone had been following him up before they apprehended him. So when we're talking about washing of fruit, is there like a specific way you wash different kinds of fruits? And what should we not add so that someone will not go and put there's this other liquid we use to kill bacteria.
Sniper.
No, not sniper, to remove stains from white before they start adding it. Bleach, exactly, without putting bleach and all that. So please be specific for the layman to understand what you're talking about.
For washing our fruits and vegetables, you don't need to have any detergent to wash your fruits or vegetable before you can make it safe for your consumption. Water, save water alone is enough for you to wash your fruits and vegetables. Let me take orange for example. Before you suck your orange, wash it very well with water and peel the back off. It is safe for your consumption. You don't need to add any detergent. Adding the detergent or bleach or sniper, as the case may be, which we've seen that people normally practice, is a bad habit, and it is dangerous to our health. That is why you see cases like cancer of the kidney, cancer of the liver, because most of them are as a result of what we consume that are not healthy for our body. So my advice is that you should wash with clean water. Then, coming down to our vegetables, I've also seen a lot of people, when they buy vegetables from the market, they will tell the trader to help them to slice the vegetable before they take it home. It's a wrong practice also. Yes, your vegetable, when you buy your vegetable from the market, take your vegetable home yourself, then wash it very well with water, with clean water, so as to remove the sand and all those germs from it. Then before you now slice and you cook your vegetable, and when you also cook the vegetable, don't cook it to the extent that all the nutrients will be cooked away. At least put your vegetable in the fire for few seconds or minutes. It's ready to.
But these ones we slice, we
the
still
one
wash
you
it at
slice,
home.
is the one you slice. The reason, if you slice your vegetable before you wash, the nutrients that you are supposed to get from the vegetable will have been, sliced away and washed away, because definitely you are also going to wash it after you slice. So by the time you are now washing, the nutrients in the vegetable will have been washed away, compared to when you've not sliced your vegetables.
Talk about more work.
Another thing I'd like to mention too is let's be mindful of where we eat.
Yes, I was going to talk about food vendors at this time.
Yes, where we eat and where we drink. Whatever we eat, whatever we take in, eating, drinking, let's be mindful. Let's try as much as possible to prepare our foods by ourselves this time, especially now that there's a cholera outbreak. Eating out is not advisable, especially in places you are not so sure of their sanitary preparation and all of that. Let's avoid these places. Then those of us that run around buying, those local beverages, the one they carry, they mix,
the
and all of that.
in the morning.
We use a lot. We don't know the kind of water they used to mix. At a time like this, let's desist from that. Those of us that buy kunu, tiger nuts, you name it, Zobo and all of that. This is the time to hold on, make it yourself if you must, if it's something you enjoy. Prepare them yourself at home where you are sure of where you're getting the kind of water. So we advise that people should desist from that for now.
Okay, so before I let you go, because we just have very few minutes to go now, questions we've asked before, I need to re-emphasize for emphasis sake and for those who missed out on it, that I'm going to talk about the signs and symptoms of cholera at this time. So please help us run through it again. What are the signs and symptoms, and how is it spread from person to person? Is it through animals we're getting it? How can we, before we talk about the prevention in Iraq? So, signs and symptoms.
The signs and symptoms of cholera are diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, then restlessness, loss of fluid that will now lead to dehydration. And if that fluid is not replaced, it can lead to death. These are some of the signs and symptoms of cholera.
Fever.
Fever too, yes.
Okay. At least I've had diarrhea once, and it wasn't funny. So when my daughter had diarrhea, you could see the panic. I wasn't wasting time to take her to the hospital because she was not even accepting the ORS from me. Children hate that thing.
Yes, like they don't like it.
So she has to be put on drip, and God, not an experience I want to go through a second time.
Yes.
And she had it that period where she was just learning to walk. You know, they are curious, so they start picking things. So I was very careful, but I don't know. Okay, so how is it spread, and what ways would you say we can prevent it again, just in a wrap, in conclusion?
Okay, you know, I mentioned earlier that cholera is waterborne. So it's not what you just get from there. It's not airborne. It's not what you just get when you just touch someone or and all of that. Okay, so cholera goes with water, the water we drink. If it's infected with the cholera, the bacteria that causes cholera. If the food is infected by the bacteria that causes cholera, that's it. So it's mainly waterborne, foodborne. Okay, then if someone already has cholera, maybe goes to the toilet and returns without washing their hands. And that could be, it can infect another person that way. It could be maybe from the doorknob. That's why I mentioned hand washing can never be overemphasized. You cannot wash your hand too much. It could be on the doorknob, maybe from coming out from the bathroom, and another person goes in. And before you know it, cholera. It could be on your table, it could be on your seat, it could be on your handrail, it could be anywhere. If an infected person, for example, has cholera in his hands, you saw what we just watched, you know. So that's the best way that cholera is being transmitted. And another thing I would say here is, some persons might be infected with cholera, but they may not show any signs.
Wow, that's possible.
Just like, yes, many diseases are like that, just like COVID. Many diseases are like that, actually. Some persons might be asymptomatic, that's how we use it. Yes, and you have that cholera, but it's not manifesting any signs. That person can transfer it to, you know, maybe more susceptible person, someone that's the immunity is low, can come down with severe cholera, and maybe another person in that same house has it and is not showing. So that's why generally we say personal hygiene is key. You might not be sick, but prevention, they say, is better than cure. Try not to be sick. And one of the ways is to ensure you wash your hand regularly. After using the toilet, before eating, after going out and coming in. Even if you are not done anything, wash your hands. It's key. With soap, under running water, not washing your hand in a bowl. Under running water, let the water flow. And that goes a long way.
I want to say thank you to both of you for educating us today. Basically, everything you used to do during COVID-19, start doing it again. How careful you were during COVID-19, please apply some caution. All right, you could minus the face mask, but every other thing, the hand sanitizer, the soap, you even learned how to wash your hands properly that period. You know how you wash your thumb, wash between your fingers, wash your palm, the back of your hands. That's, go and learn the practice again if you've forgotten it. And it should, by now, it's supposed to even be a part of you. Not really because there's a cholera outbreak. There are other things that can spread that is not cholera just from shaking hands with someone. So y'all need to imbibe this hand washing culture again. And I will be leaving us now with a particular video of a man called Jon Snow. When the cholera became a big issue in the 19th century. They were calling it the Grim Reaper of the 19th century. He was one of those who first profiled the solution to how to control its spread. And when this outbreak came, it wasn't even Africa, it was somewhere in London. But they've been able to manage it so well that you hardly even hear about such a case in any of these countries. But there was a time they were dealing with this as we are dealing with it now. So we'll keep a video of Jon Snow. We have to remember him now that we're talking about cholera. So that's how we're going to leave you with that video quickly, and we'll see you next week, that's for sure.